Hey everyone, I'm Erin Bassett, and today I am going to show you how to take just your standard ball caps that you can pick up, pretty much anywhere. These came from a craft store, and we are going to jazz them up for, the patriotic holidays that are coming up. We got Memorial Day and the 4th of July. So to do that, I went ahead and got my ball caps and went and got some fat quarters of patriotic type of fabrics. And it doesn't have to be patriotic, like stars, obviously pretty patriotic, but it can also be little swirls and some flowers. Anything that's red, white, and blue is going to give the idea that it's patriotic fabric. Okay, so grab some fabric that you have, some hats. And then let's go ahead and look at our ScanNCut DX, because this is what I'm going to use to be able to cut out all those fabric pieces to jazz up these hats. So come on closer. So when I first turn on my machine, I have two options, pattern or scan. Now if you took a piece of paper and scripted out a patriotic word, you can scan that in and then cut your fabric out and apply that to your hat. That would be really cool. But today I'm going to be using built-in patterns. And remember, I'm using a ScanNCut DX. So if you're using a different version of ScanNCut, you may have other patterns. In fact, you will have other patterns on there. Okay, so these are like basic shapes. Like I was saying, if you want to cut out little stars, you can scroll through here and find those stars. Let's see, there's a couple down here, a couple different variations there and there. But I don't want to use those. I'm not going to use the designs that I normally would. Instead, I'm going to scroll down and pick quilt. And these are different categories of quilts. Now, this isn't one that I typically choose from. I typically use one of the other patterns because I'm not a quilter. I enjoy sewing, but not quilting, or at least I have never tried quilting. Okay, so I want to do a star. So I'm going to click on these ones and find a star that I'd like. I do kind of like this idea of having those shapes. And I think I'm going to leave off these triangles along the outside of it so I just have a star. So I need to resize this because obviously 12 inches is way too big, or close to 12 inches. So if you just hit any of these minus keys, both of them work the same, they're going to shrink the whole thing down. And I think I'm going to go with, let's see, probably about 4 inches wide. Okay, so we're going to click OK. And now I need to choose the pieces. If I click on A, it shows, it says outer triangles, and I don't want to use that one. So I'm going to click on B instead and click and cut these out. So it's going to give me 3 pieces. So if I click on OK, it already has the correct size that I need, and it already set it to 3. Now if I was going to make a quilt and I needed much more of these cut out, I can increase or decrease the number from there. But I'm going to set those on my mat, so I have those. And now I'm going to click Add, and I'm going to choose the other piece. And so for that, I got it. Okay, same thing. I have 3 of those set. Okay, so now I have all of those ready to be cut out. Okay, and then you're going to select Cut. And you can see right here, I have my half cut on, so I must have been cutting vinyl last. So I need to change that setting. If you click on that little wrench and scroll down to where it says half cut, and we want to turn that off. We want it to do a full cut. And then click OK. So we have that all set. Now I'm just going to prepare my fabric by putting a support sheet on the back of it. I'm going to iron that on and then put my fabric onto my mat, and we'll be ready to cut. Okay, so here we are over at my ironing board. I'm taking each of the fabrics that I need. Remember, I need 6 different types. I have it on the right side down, so this is the wrong side up. And now I'm going to take this adhesive sheet and iron it on. And the side that has, the shininess and the bumpiness, that goes against your fabric. And I don't need very much of this because I'm using 6 different little pieces of fabric. So I'm going to cut this, in fact, down. Let's see. Let me fold it back up. And hopefully that's the right size. I'm not really measuring, obviously. Okay, so I have my little piece right here. Again, I'm going to put shiny side down against the fabric. And it doesn't have to be perfectly lined up. And then you're just going to iron it on. Hold it for a few seconds or whatever the manufacturer recommends. And super hot. So I'm going to let that cool a few seconds. Okay, so once it's cool, you can go ahead and remove that paper backing, and that leaves that adhesive onto your fabric so that you're able to cut it out with your ScanNCut. So I'm just going to repeat that process for 5 other types of fabric, and then I'll meet you back at my ScanNCut machine. Okay, so I am using the standard mat for this, and that way it'll be sticky enough to hold on to this. And I have all of the backings peeled off already, but the adhesive is still on there. So I'm just going to put those onto my cutting mat. And you don't really have to line it up with anything because we're going to scan this in and place our pattern exactly where we want it. So as long as you get them inside that black frame, you're going to be okay. Okay, so let's take that over to our ScanNCut DX. Okay, so let's load it in, and to do that, there's these little bumpers right here, and I like to just line it up with that one, and then hit the load button. Okay, so now we need to get those onto here, right? So first I'm going to back up, and now I'm going to hit the scan button. So it's going to scan the whole mat in until it starts. And I got to watch out for this wall back here. Okay, so you can see them all on the screen. So now I can just take these patterns and drag it exactly in the middle of each one of those little pieces of fabric. And I think the cool thing with scanning it is, like with that star, I can position my pattern right on top of that so that I capture it. And I think that's really cool. So I am going to, let's see, click OK. And again, cut. Oops. Cut. And now we are ready to start. Double check the half cut is off. Now I'm using the auto blade for this. A lot of people like to have one blade for their fabric and one for cutting paper. But since this is a newer blade, I'm not going to worry about it. But just a word of warning, if you want to have 2 blades and switch them back and forth for what you're cutting, go for it. Okay, so now let's hit start. Okay, so now we are finished, and we can remove our mat. And now let's take that over to the table. Okay, so back over here, we can start removing these, and you just want to be very careful when you do. So I like to take off all the extra first. Okay, so now we have our little diamonds. And I don't want to distort this fabric. You know, it doesn't quite matter with this project because I'm just going to iron these on. But if you're doing quilting, definitely you don't want to stretch your fabric out or cause it to fray. So I'm just going to use my spatula and just gently take it off. Okay, so we have all of our diamonds cut out. And now I just need to decide how I want them to go together. You know, which patterns I want by each other. Maybe something like that. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So now I'm going to go and grab my hat. And I think since this has so much blue, it'll be better on a red hat. Okay, so I went and brought my iron into here, and I'm going to take a old towel and shove it up inside my hat just to give it a little bit more stability. So I'm going to eyeball this, get an idea of where it's going to go. Okay, so now that I have a plan of action, I am going to start with this one. I think that's how I want it. Now the key is to not burn yourself, right? And if you're worried about the heat affecting any of your hat, make sure you put another piece of cloth over this. I don't think it will cause a problem because I'm not leaving it on there for very long. So I have my towel underneath. You see that? So I'm not going to burn myself, hopefully. Knock on wood, right? And now I'm ready to start. So I have my steam off, so I won't get a steam burn. And then that is on there. You know, and as I was putting this together, I thought, oh, it might be kind of cute to have it separated in between, and then I can do some stitching on there. So I think I'll do that. I'll just put a little space between those. Okay, I have finished ironing on all those pieces onto my hat, and my just kind of winging it and putting a space between did not turn out perfect. I probably should have measured that out better before I started, so use this as a lesson for you. But now I want to add some embellishment to this. So now I thought it would be really fun to put some bling on it. So I'm going to use the ScanNCut to be able to cut out a pattern to put bling on here. And I'm using the kit that comes for this, and that's sold separately. So I thought maybe I'd put USA or something somewhere down here, and then some other details on the rest of the hat as well. And I need to think of what should go here. Maybe I'll put bling, maybe a button. I don't know, but there's going to be cool stuff. So let me go to my computer and get started on creating a design and walk you through it. Okay, so I'm in ScanNCut Canvas Workspace, and I'm just going to go ahead and click on Rhinestone. And it's over there on your left-hand side. And then click on U, S, and then A. And I just am leaving them in a pile and then pulling them, dragging them into place. And once I get them spaced correctly, I'm going to select all of them, go up to Edit, and then Align, and just make sure they're all lined up. Now I can send it over to my ScanNCut DX using ScanNCut Transfer. Okay, so I went ahead and put this fuzzy, I guess you could call it paper. It's sticky on the back, and then there's a backing that you're going to remove later. But anyways, you're going to put that onto your standard mat. That's what I'm using. and then take it over to your ScanNCut machine so that you can cut out the USA rhinestone pattern. Okay, so now I'm just going to turn on my machine. And insert this. And remember, you want to be up against that bumper. Okay, so now I can go ahead and hit retrieve data. And I'm retrieving it from the wireless internet. Okay, and there is my USA. So I want to say okay, okay, and then I'm going to select cut. Okay, so now let's go ahead and turn our half cut on, and you do that by clicking on that wrench and then scroll down to where it says half cut and click on, and okay. Okay, so our test cut, or our half cut, is on. So let's try it out and see if that will work. I'm going to do a test, and I want it to be a cut. I'm going to pick a little triangle. Okay, that triangle is going to cut down at the bottom. So I'm going to say start. Okay, so let's see. So it looks like I'm going to have to increase the pressure. So I'm going to click on that wrench, go down to half cut pressure, and I'm going to turn it to 3 and try that. So I'm going to move this little triangle over a little bit and tell it to start. Okay, so it looks like 3 was the ticket. Now my blade will be a different setting than yours. So yours might be 3 or it might be something different because we all have different wear patterns on our blade. So do that test cut to make sure you have it set how you need it. So if you need to test it again, go ahead and hit test again. Otherwise, hit start. Okay, so let's eject this by clicking the unload button and take this over to our table. Okay, so I'm just going to remove this from the mat. And I'm going to trim this down because I don't need to do this whole thing. I was cutting these dots earlier, now they're everywhere. Okay, so I'm just going to trim this. Okay, so now this part is really important when you have it. Let's see, the hard part, always separating this. Huh? Okay, so I am going to take this off of here, and I need to do it in one quick motion, and that's the way to be most successful in getting those little dots off of here. And those last little dots you can just poke out with your finger. Okay, so with Okay, so with your rhinestone kit, it comes obviously with a box lid, and then it has this backing board that's kind of shiny, and so you're going to place that inside your box lid. And let me move my mat. Okay, so we're just going to take our USA. Okay, so we're just going to take our USA and put it onto that backing board, and then make sure it's on there securely. And then take your rhinestones and you just want to dump them onto there. So dump them on. And then in your kit you also get this little fuzzy brush, and this positions all the rhinestones. So just use a circular motion and it will knock all those rhinestones in. It's kind of magical. Okay, I think that's all of them. Okay, so after you got them all in there, just clear off the extra. And now I'm taking this transfer paper, and you can see right on there, it's going to pick up those rhinestones and take it over to your project. So I just cut a small piece of it. I'm going to take that backing off. And then this just gets laid right on top. Okay, so once you get it on there, lift them up, and voila, there is our USA to put on our hat. And so because this is rounded, it's going to be a little bit trickier. You might want to start, on one side and then just slowly work your way over. Again, make sure you have it where you want it, and then just cover it up with a piece of cloth. So it's kind of like ironing blind, but it should help. Okay, so I finished this up by doing some stitching around those diamond shapes. For more information about ScanNCut, visit ScanNCut.com. And for more ideas and inspiration, visit erinbassett.com.